Welcome back to Breathe, a podcast that spreads hope and awareness about incarceration. I'm your host, Ariadne Brempu, and today's episode will cover a police officer's point of view on processing and incarceration. It will feature Sergeant Peter Griffith, who's been working as a police officer for the past 28 years. He's worked in many different districts from Queens to Brooklyn and currently in Port Washington. He's also very aware of the tension that some people feel towards the police and explains how the police officers handle that. So grab your headphones, settle in, and let's get into it. What are your roles as a sergeant in the Port Washington Police Department?
So I am the community affairs officer and liaison, and I'm responsible for community outreach. So it relates to the community, meeting with civic groups, religious groups, faith leaders, uh, community associations, schools, school personnel, principals, and staff, the public library, anything to do with the community. I get involved with, meet with folks, and have meetings and we get involved in events from time to time, all with the goal of really increasing our contacts, increasing our interactions with the community on a positive level, of course.
Why do you think it's important to increase your communication with the community?
So we increase our communication with the community so that, for many reasons, to educate the community about police matters, to learn from the community about community matters, and that when things do go wrong, when we do have incidents within the community, that we have some level of familiarity and support within the community. So that when we do have to take action, whether police action, we're familiar with the community, they're familiar with us, and it becomes easier to do our jobs as police officers out there when we have those very close interactions with the community on a day-to-day basis.
One of the ways you do that is through National Night Out. Can you explain what that is?
Right. So National Night Out is a national program. It's a national event where the police of the community get together and celebrate the police-community relationship. It's an event. It's a festival, a barbecue, a street fair. It's all that in one, and all with the goal again of just celebrating that relationship, interacting with the community, interacting with kids and adults, and just really celebrating that community relationship, which initially National Night Out was started or came out of areas where crime was tough, and police and community literally took to the streets to deal with crime and to make a stand against crime. That's why it's called the National Night Out Against Crime. And that was years ago, and now it has kind of developed into this event, this really great event that happens the first Tuesday in August of every year, where the police and community come together and celebrate.
Can you talk about the Youth Police Academy?
Sure. So the Youth Police Academy is, New York City and Nassau County has an abbreviated version of it. And really, you take a set number of young people, generally teenage age or younger, uh, or junior high school age to high school age, and those kids get run through a mini police academy, kind of experience what the police do in the academy, everything from military drills and exercises, lessons in police science and law. And generally, it's a summer program, and it kind of has some fun stuff too, of course, for kids. Some trips, maybe to an amusement park might be mixed in, and some other events as well, maybe to a museum. And then it culminates at the end of that. There's a little bit of a ceremony to celebrate and participants get certificates, that type of thing. And it's another way the police get to interact with the community or interact with kids in a positive way. And that program has been around a long time, and it's still being used. Still goes on today as we speak.
Why do you think it's important for citizens to learn about police duties?
So I think once you know more about any kind of government entity, any kind of uh, anything with it that is within your community, I think you have a better, more respect for it, more of an understanding of why it's there. When you don't know, you make inferences, you guess, you question. But when you know, it helps you navigate those questions you have. Why do the police do this? Why do they do that? You kind of understand a little more. You get to put yourself in the position of a police officer, which is important. Just to understand the duties of the police officer and how important it is in keeping our communities safe.
How effective do you think the police department has been with the community outreach?
So community outreach, we've been doing it for years, but we really focused on it the last few years, and we've got some good gains. We've got some good results. Uh, we're able to survey the community from time to time, and we're getting some really good positive results. And then there's just the everyday members of the community that write us letters and see us on the street and say that, and tell us that they feel like we're doing a good job, that we are doing a good job of community outreach. So we think we're doing well, but there's always more work to be done. We're always in the Port Washington Police. We're always trying to kind of, get better. We never really think that we've got it all figured out. We're always trying to enhance ourselves and better ourselves and try to learn how we can serve the community better. Even when we think we're doing a good job, we try to do it a little bit better.
What are some of the recurring concerns you hear about from the community?
So quality of life issues are one of the concerns we hear about. Traffic, um, noise. We do hear about, parking issues and that kind of thing. People complain about, we have a handful of homeless folks on Main Street. That sometimes a complaint. So we have these quality of life issues. Property crime is an issue. We have these quality of life and property crime issues that do come up all the time. Kind of persistent quality of life issues that people who live in the community complain about and are concerned about, have legitimate concerns about.
What kind of solutions are you able to provide for them?
So we have we call it the POP unit, the Problem Oriented Policing Unit, a Traffic Safety Enforcement Unit. And those guys and girls go out with the goal of trying to address those quality of life issues. Sometimes it's just through education, talking to people, and then sometimes they issue summonses, violations, and arrests if necessary to try to address these conditions that people continually complain about in terms of folks maybe drinking in public, folks that are hanging, maybe are disorderly, parking complaints, people, running out, stopping for stop signs, and kind of making the roads a little more dangerous. So those units go out and try to address it. And I myself, when I go to meetings, I always talk to the community about quality of life issues and traffic issues, and try to educate them on why it's important to stop at stop signs and slow down at pedestrian crossings and that type of thing. So we do a lot of education to balance with our enforcement.
Now, you've worked in many different places. What differences did you see working in Port Washington versus working in other places like the city?
Well, Port Washington's definitely a nice community. People are very, tend to be supportive of the police overall. It's definitely a nice place to work, but those same quality of life issues that I dealt with in New York City are very consistent with the ones that I deal with right here in Port Washington. And of our of communities are so much is communities are essentially, I think, very similar no matter where they are. Some of the same concerns, right? Safety, traffic, parking, just those concerns are consistent no matter where you go, whether you're in New York City, Fort Washington. So they're pretty consistent, the issues that people complain about.
What's it like working in poor communities versus ones that are more well off?
So we think, as the police department, we see those as the same, right? We don't make a distinction there. We go out and do the job and try to be consistent about what we're doing and try to be fair and balanced and reasonable and treat people well, no matter what community it is. My experience has been that no matter where you are, the concerns tend to be similar. People want to be safe no matter how affluent they are, not or poor. The people want to be safe. They want to be able to go to and from safely. They want their children to be able to go to and from school safely. And once you're working to that end, you always have the support of any community you're in.
Do you think that police officers are more on guard in any way in poor neighborhoods since they statistically have more crime?
We hope that the police are out there being balanced and fair no matter where they're working. They shouldn't be any more on guard, no matter where they work. It should be a similar, consistent way of doing business.
Do you think that they're able to operate in that way to not act differently depending on what community they're in?
I think so. The vast majority of police officers do a really solid job of trying to be fair across the board, no matter where they work. Um, there are always the incidents that we see on TV, things that that are challenging and a question. It makes us question what's going on in those particular incidents. But for the most part, I think the vast majority of police officers go out there with the intention to be fair, be balanced, no matter where they work, and try to provide good police service, right?
Do you think that increasing police presence in more violent communities makes the violence worse?
Yeah, so violent community, I think you do need to increase police presence, especially in the beginning, to try to get a handle on the violence and get control of the violence. And then in time, you can reduce that number as, uh, as things get a little bit better. But I do think initially, sometimes it is necessary to increase police presence, whether it's a violent situation or to correct a condition that may be plaguing a particular community. People tend to follow the law a little bit more when the police are around. And it's just, it's naturally, I think.
Do you think poor communities have the resources that they need to deal with the conditions that they face day to day?
That's something that's, that's an interesting question. We could always use more resources, especially in poor communities. There are always issues of education and just issues of just being able to survive from day to day, having high cost of living in some places, unemployment issues. So there are all these social issues that are definitely tough. That are definitely a challenge in poor communities. So there's always a need for more resources, and there's always a need for more help and more programs. And I think a lot of our nonprofit groups and faith groups throughout the community and throughout the country have done a really good job in filling that void and helping out in those areas.
The US has a big mass incarceration problem. Do you think that incarcerating people is always the answer?
So incarceration, it's not something that I have an expertise in terms of you know what incarceration rates and that type of thing. So I really don't have you know don't really have a clear answer as to what. Uh, but we do know that there are alternatives out there. A lot of the alternative programs that are out there in terms of community-based programs, faith-based programs, anti-violence programs, et cetera. There's a lot of stuff available now, and even built into our criminal justice system, where these other options are available to people who may find themselves, in trouble with the law. There are these other programs that are there to kind of help you out as an alternative to being incarcerated. So there are these other options. There are these other programs that are out there. Many of them, like I said, are run by non-for-profits that are out there.
Have you ever had to make arrests that you regretted?
No, I haven't. No.
From what you've seen, in what ways does becoming arrested or incarcerated change someone's life?
Can't really speak to that. I know that obviously, it's a negative thing. It has negative effects. It's the kind of thing that is certainly a bump in the road. And I think people who are able to, rebound from that situation and say, listen, this is never going to happen to me again. I'm going to, pivot and move away from this kind of behavior and do something different. Take the positive out of a negative situation. I think they tend are able to recover. But folks that repeatedly maybe engage in the same kind of behavior again and again and again, it becomes problematic and it becomes a lifestyle. But some folks are able to kind of pivot and say, listen, this is not for me. This being arrested, I don't want anything to do with it. This was a bad day, and they're able to make some adjustments. So that's always a good thing when that happens.
What's the procedure for when dealing with gangs?
So it would depend on what the situation is. We here in Port Washington, we do not have a real pervasive gang problem. We don't have much of an issue with gangs per se, but I do know that they do have laws that specifically try to address gangs, like gang assault, that type of thing, designed to kind of address an issue where people are acting in groups, criminal conduct within a group of people consistently over time. But we ourselves here in Port Washington, we really don't have a gang problem, a gang issue at all.
Do you think that in a place like New York City where there are more gangs, do you think that mass arresting gang members there is the right solution?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the right solution would be in New York City in terms of gangs. I know there are gangs throughout the city, and the New York City Police Department tries to address it in several ways.
What age in general tends to commit crimes?
So it's historically, it's from what my understanding is that you're talking about young people, late teens into the early 20s. That's all. That tends to be the group of folks that tend to commit uh, a large percentage of crime.
Why do you think that is?
I think young people, are trying to find themselves, and they're out there, and they're making bad, just bad judgment, bad, mistakes in judgment, and as you're growing up, and depending on how you were raised and your family and what kind of family support you have, and your school and all these support systems that you might have, and your faith institution, etc. I think you can find yourself with a bad group of kids and doing bad things.
How accurate do you think social media is in depicting the police-citizen relationship?
It's interesting. I think that social media is, obviously guided by that juicy story, that the story that's going to get the most likes or the most hits. People are going to watch the most. So a lot of times that becomes a negative story where police are taking action, and it looks bad. And so those social media kind of looks to air those kind of stories, looks to focus on those kind of stories, the bad stories, where police officers tend to look like they're being overly aggressive or brutal or something else. They try to pick those out. So that's the only. So a lot of times that does happen with social media. You get these negative views of the police through through the videos that point out a bad interaction between the police and a resident or a citizen.
Does the way the media portrays police officers make you feel discouraged?
So no, I think for all those bad things on social media, those negative stories on social media, there are a lot more good stories, right? That you get to see and be part of every day yourself when you're out there on patrol. You get the thank yous from the community, the hugs from the community. People, drop off, maybe a cake, cookies, whatever they can, with a thank you note. They write a letter. So, to balance all the negative is there's so much more positive. So when you do see this negative stuff on social media, you know that it's really those are the exceptions to the rule. It's not the norm. So you're able to be encouraged by the community, by the people you work for.
What's your reaction to things that have happened to people like George Floyd?
In terms of George Floyd, obviously uh, it's a tragedy, and there are many other tragedies out there. But I think it's those are the exceptions to the rule. Those are the things that are. The things that stand out, as tragic as they are, the vast majority of interactions are positive. The vast majority of police officers are out there doing really good work and trying to work really hard to help people. So I think that, so that's my reaction. That you kind of have to you have to look at the positive. The glass is half full. You have to look at the positive overall rather than the negative.
It seems that a lot of people fear the abuse of police power, especially after incidents like that. Are there a lot of measures that work to ensure that police officers treat citizens correctly?
I'm sure there are measures in place. There are civilian complaint review boards. There are internal affairs divisions and the Attorney General's office in New York, the United States Attorney General's office, and other federal agencies that look to ensure civil rights with our citizens. So there is a lot of oversight. The general, of course, there's the police supervision is always in place. So there are a lot of stuff in place to try to make sure that citizens are being treated well, that our residents are being treated well, that the police are not abusing their authority.
Do you think that most citizens are aware of the powers that they have?
I think most people are aware of their rights. They may they may not know exactly how to exercise them. They know they have them, and they sometimes have to educate themselves on how to exercise those rights, what they can do if they feel they're being treated badly, or how do they make a complaint or something like that. And the systems are in place now where even the police will explain to you how you can make a complaint and where do you go and what the procedure is. So that's one of the things that we do. We're always trying to self-police and make sure our citizens are informed as to how they can make a complaint if they're not happy with us, with police services.
What do you think would help more citizens learn about their rights?
It's interesting. I think education, certainly in schools and other programs that are out there that and certainly there's a lot of information even online on the internet that you can look at tells you a lot about what your rights are, what you can do and can't do when you're confronted by the police. If you believe you've been treated incorrectly or unlawfully by the police, and any other form of government agencies or government employees. So I think people, if they're looking to educate themselves, they have the ability to go on the internet. They have the ability to connect to reach out to the Attorney General's office, reach out to the civil rights and human rights groups out there that spend a lot of time educating people. Some have classes, some use literature and on stuff online where they spend a lot of time trying to educate citizens about what their rights are and how to exercise those rights.
What do you think leads to certain abuses of power, like over policing?
So I think most of those, what would lead to abuses of power would be bad leadership, right? I think when we have good leadership, good supervision, people from the top to the bottom that are clear with their communication, what they expect the police to do and not do. Once the communication is clear and the standards are set, those high standards are set as to how the community is supposed to be dealt with, how the community is supposed to be respected. I think that trickles down throughout an agency, throughout a police department. So I really do think the leadership has that role to kind of set the bar high and to be clear on what the standard is for people to be treated by the police.
Do you think that people from certain demographics get targeted by the police?
So I don't think that people from demographics get targeted necessarily, but I do believe that people do feel that way. That is a real feeling that people do have. They might feel targeted, after interacting with the police or from their own history or experience with the police.
Defunding and rebranding the police have both been pretty avid movements. What do you think about them?
So I think that defunding and rebranding is, it's obviously has its political roots and everything has in a lot of last few years. But I believe that the police are doing their job well. That there's no reason to rebrand, no reason to defund. There's no reason. If the police are doing their job well, the community will appreciate it. The job will get done well, and the support will be there from the residents. So I don't think you need to, rebranding and trying to reinvent yourself. I think if you're just doing what you're supposed to do, doing it well and being fair with your interactions with the citizens, treating people well, following the law, and explaining your actions, being as transparent as possible. I don't think there's a reason to necessarily rebrand. I think the community will appreciate the work you do over time for sure.
How has policing changed since you first joined the force?
So policing has definitely changed. It's definitely much more high level of scrutiny since I joined the force. Body cameras have been introduced, and there's been more oversight. There's been an increased amount of oversight of the police throughout the country. So there's definitely been more oversight. Definitely been a lot of changes in place, and I think with the goal of making policing better, more transparent, creating that good industry standard of policing. I think that's been the goal.
Even after working on the force for nearly 30 years, do you still get scared on the job?
No, I mean working in Fort Washington, I'm very lucky. We don't there aren't too many scary moments here, thankfully. But the potential is always there. There's always a possibility of safety being an issue, of being hurt, etc. But I've been lucky so far. Thank God, so far so good. Knock on wood, as they say. Things have been going very well. Not too many scary moments here in Fort Washington.
What's your advice for the people who are scared?
So fear is a natural thing. It's not something to be upset about or to feel embarrassed about. It's a natural human instinct, and fear itself is not a bad thing. It's how you respond to that fear. How do you address it? There are ways to address it. There are ways to, obviously physical activity helps you out a little bit when it comes to fear, but and educating yourself, asking questions, and being as safe as you can, when you're interacting with people, but also, trying to see the other side of the situation, put yourself in the other person's shoes. that you might be a little fearful, and that other person might be just as fearful, right? You might have something in common. So that's something you can kind of, you can de-escalate that fear, bring down the temperature a little, and have a conversation about it. I think that's the best way you can handle fear on the job.
And if there's one thing that people take away from today's episode, what should it be?
I think they should take away this idea of community policing being a real thing in terms of, helping the police community relationship get better and survive and thrive and develop. I think it's a real, these interactions with the community, I think they're priceless. They are the most important aspect of what we do. And, while you might see a TV show where people are getting arrested and there's a gunfight, and that's a very small percentage of what policing is, maybe 1%, but the vast majority of what we do is administrative and meeting with the community, interactions, day-to-day interactions with the community, mostly positive. And they're not exciting. They're not very, they're not dramatic, and they don't make the news. But that's really what policing is all about. That those day-to-day interactions with the community, making sure they're positive.
Thank you all for listening. I hope you got something out of it, even if it's just an interest in mass incarceration. Stay hopeful out there and stay tuned for the next episode.